Okay, getting her put together now. And one thing I had noticed the hard way, or found out the hard way, when I was putting this together, is the blower covers are different depths. And the flywheels were different. This one has a taller fan on it. That one has a shorter fan. So I had to use this blower cover in order to use this starter. And I had to put that flywheel on that starter cup so they would fit correctly. And as for that one carburetor, it was for a 14 horse because the engine that was a horizontal shaft that I had taken the parts off was actually a Model 29. I thought it was an 18 horse. I wrote down on there that that's the blower cover and recoil parts model and type and code. And I riveted the 18 horsepower information on here so they can always get the carburetor parts. So if you need engine parts such as the heads, pistons, rods, or anything like that, or carburetor, you can use that 18 horsepower model number that was off of that other blower cover. So always keep in mind when you're doing Frankenstein builds or salvaging parts that you gotta be able to look up parts for service in the future. Little tidbit of information there for you. Tried the 14 horsepower carburetor on here and it was just choking it to death as soon as you revved it up. It would idle, but when you went to rev it up, it was just too much vacuum pressure and running rich. So I had to put this 18 horsepower carburetor back on. I did try salvaging another carb body, but I couldn't get the one jet out of it. So I just scrapped it. And I know you don't have to remove the jet in order to clean the carburetor, but I'm picky. The low-speed jet in there is just corroded in. The threads are gone in that hole. I got the other jet out, but even then the needle seat in there is all corroded, so I didn't want to invest any more time into it. And the carburetor top, the brass emulsion tube had broken on it. So that carburetor was toast, but it was full of water and corroded away anyway, so. I'm going to leave you guys on the stand while I put this thing together live. I'm not going to fast forward it on you, because I thought you guys might want to see what's going on as for the order. So I'll get you guys set up. It's a little early yet, so it's not very bright out. I think you guys can see pretty good. Now we got a gas tank to put on. There we go. I'm also going to be changing oil on this thing, but I'll do that off camera. That's pretty basic. But yeah, the flywheel and the starter cup starter and blower cover all had to be changed. And I took off all the electric start components that were on this engine because the starter was actually broken on this, so I didn't really want to invest the time into it, as well as the muffler goes in place of the starter on this engine. So, ready to see me put it together? I think so. And I have to put a shout out to Twisted V Twin Garage for the tripod today, which is nice. Getting these black panels to line up with the hole with the red panel and getting the bolt in is a little bit tricky. So you gotta be careful you don't cross thread those. I'm gonna use a bolt and socket to get that in a little bit carefully. So yeah, make sure you don't cross thread those bolts. Same on the other side. It's this one on the far side you gotta worry about. You got two panels lining up with that hole. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to stick this one bolt in to hold that tight. And then I'll, actually no. Yeah, I'll stick this bolt in first, then I'll put this upper bolt. That way I get some movement. But I forgot I gotta put this gas tank bracket on too. So let's get that on there. Sometimes you have to chase that out with a tap to clean those threads out in that manifold. I already put never sees on all these bolts, so they shouldn't corrode. And that I was also including the coils on the block. I took the bolts out for the ignition coils and put never sees on them. So the next person has to work on this doesn't have a fight. I'm not going to tighten these down just yet because I got to put these other bolts in too. I always put these bottom bolts in after doing the top, just in case there's any alignment issues. Get a little more wiggle room. More or less, you just go work your way from the top down with the blower cover bolts. That's probably the easiest way to go. Doesn't matter how you tighten them up, though. But I think I'm just going to continue with the top down direction. Now, something you might need to do if you're putting this blower cover on after doing a head job is you might need to loosen up the 6 bolts for that panel up on top and push that panel down, and then put your cover on and tighten down those 6 bolts. Since I already had adjusted that, it goes together easy. I'll show you what I'm talking about. These 6 bolts for this black panel in here, if you did a head job, these would be out of adjustment, so it won't line up with the blower cover very well. So you might need to leave these loose and push this panel down so it'll line up with the blower cover, and then you can tighten them all down once you get the blower cover on. Now, I did test fit this tank a few times to get this fuel shut off to line up good with this tab. So you'll just have to do some trial and error with that until that's in the right position. I had taken this valve off and used some ether to verify that if it was good or not, and it was not leaking, so I'm just going to leave this one alone. But it is threaded into the tank. I'm sorry, it's threaded into the tank half. I put a new fuel line and fuel filter on here. The carburetor was pretty clean to begin with. The gasket didn't seem too badly tore up, so I just put it back together. Everything looked fine. I use the old fuel line as a template to cut this new stuff to the same size as well, or length, I'm sorry. I'll get you guys in there so you can see how it works. In case someone has a hard time, that'd be open and that'd be closed. Yeah, before you go hooking up the tank, make sure you put the bolts in for the gas tank. That helps. That helps a bit. I have to loosen up these two bolts for this bracket so I can line up the other two. Got ahead of myself a little bit. I usually leave these tank brackets on the engine because I don't like to mess with the governor. So I just undo the bolts off the top, and then you just take these 4 bolts off with the whole gas tank. You don't have to unbolt this top piece. It's not too difficult. And then just realign the 4 bolts on top. Tighten them all down. I'm just going to leave this open now. It seems to be working pretty good. And we'll check it for leaks. I don't think it's going to leak, but rather be check it while I'm here. Okay, I know the oil's full because I was running this before, but you might as well check it before you go firing it up just in case. Oil's very dirty on here, but it is full. So let's open up or close the choke. Fuel's on. I don't have a throttle cable yet, so it should be at idle. Matter of fact, I gotta put this on. For this, you just loosen up that bolt down here and slot that in because it's got a slot in here, and then you can stick that on. Because this bolt's staying tight, I can take this bolt out and nothing should move on me. but I forgot to put that on. A lot of juggling on this engine. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 panels on this one bolt over here. You have to line them all up. Like I had mentioned, because everything's tightened down, nothing's moving, so I don't have to worry about relining up any of those other parts. Got a little bit of rain today. The ground wire is no good on this, but I can still hook up the wire to that anyway. I have the choke open right now. I want to make sure it's not going to start from any fuel leak now of the carburetor. Nope. No carb leaks, so I got it choked now. It should fire up. Sure if it's running lean yet, or if the lack of the air filter is probably causing problems. So I never did remount the high-speed jet on this carburetor because I didn't really want to mess around with it too much and mess it up. So I might wind up having to take this thing back apart. But before we go doing that, let's put the air filter on. You have to grab a socket. I'm going to have to put you guys on pause for a second because I have some dirty threads I got to clean up. Well, it's been 23 minutes since this take. Yeah, I know I had that bolt around here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, I got the threads cleaned up and I put some Never Sees on to keep them from rusting. So let's see what happens when we have the air filter on it this time around. Hopefully we get some better results. On the size of that thing is I can't wrap my hand all the way around it. See if I can't find something to stick in there for fun. So if you liked the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a good day.